Yo, what's up, Cinema Circle? Welcome back to another video. Now, quick little, reality check, update kind of thing. So, one, I want to apologize for the delay, in the release of this video. I'm trying to, or at least the plan was to keep videos kind of somewhat, close together in releases. But something started that kind of changed the game a little bit. So, I still plan to make Urban Legends, the horror miniseries. There's another film that we're calling Stamina, a short film that we're going to be making. And, Cinema Circle, fun-size films. Keep that going as well. Excuse me. But the difference, the thing that kind of put a wrench in the whole, process is that my partner and I decided to really hit it hard with client work and starting a new branch of Gem Films Creative Studio called Meridian Visuals. Now, that is pretty much, a completely separate entity from anything else. This is all narrative work, all for fun, but now this is professional business stuff. So, as as I'm sure the business side of things is pretty complicated. There's a lot of different things like LLCs, S corps, taxes, contracts, all kinds of things. So we're we're getting all that really going, but that's why it's really delayed everything else, because we're putting all our full attention, our full efforts into making that successful. Because if that's successful, then we could bring you a gajillion and one amazing pieces of film work, all for free on YouTube, like intended. That's ultimately the goal, is to have some kind of Netflix or Prime Video, but just all on one YouTube channel for free for everybody to access and enjoy. And yeah, so all for the love of the game, pretty much. So anyways, thank you for understanding. So we're still putting a little pause on everything else, but once we're up and running, we will definitely be making Urban Legends and bringing it to you as soon as possible. Anyways, these composers are for Urban Legends. We're kind of in the process of figuring out which composer we're going to go with. But yeah, you'll figure that out, or you'll hear about that eventually. Anyways, thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you later. Back to the regularly scheduled video. Yo, what's up, Cinema Circle? Welcome back to another video. My name is Jacob Murrow, and in this episode, we're going to be choosing our composer to score our horror miniseries called Urban Legends: Fear of the Unknown. Now, we recorded a separate, unrelated test scene, so we're going to see how different composers interpret and score that to help us make our decision for the larger project. Anyways, let's get into it.
My name is Ben Sebald. This is my take on the scene. When we first get a glimpse of our pursuer right there, and I kept it to one synth until we start to run. It's a very developmental synth, so it's got, I like to show this, you can see these rhythmic flashings here. Those are LFOs, and they are set to different times so that as you hold down a single note on the synth, it could go on for a long time and yet still not really repeat itself. If we listen to it here as our entrance, I think you'll find it has a lot of anxiety to it, right? You just saw him once, let it go away. We're letting the notes grow and letting it get louder so that we feel that tension. That's the last sound is when he starts to run. When he starts to run, we get something a little more musical, I guess, a little more more's going on, just more layered. There is percussion, but it's very edited, and it's also filtered, so it's kind of creating this tone out of the percussion, but it's and it has rhythm, but it's not like a Jason Bourne chase scene where the drums are really up front. Yeah, so those parts are mainly edits and pitch shifting and delays on these two guys, hand drum and a tambourine. And that really, by taking a lot out of those and changing their pitch and stuff, created a different soundscape. Percussive, but mostly stressful. There is a subtle low end synth on this, which is right here, which adds some rhythm, and I didn't want to lose that low end tension that we developed in the beginning. Yeah, so next thing I did was for kind of horror tension, I guess, kind of more in the direction of horror, which is I layered a bunch of cellos on top of each other. I am not a cellist, so I was sitting there with the tuner, finding every note, but you know, I had some ideas of what I could do, and I layered these cello parts together. We got arpeggio that's going on here, that's pitch shifted. It's one arpeggio, but the pitch shift is going everywhere. And that's kind of a centerpiece of it. It really develops, gets us more and more anxious as we go for the keys and feel like somebody's behind us, and kind of builds to a height there. This does similarly, but it's one note. It's a drone. It's very high. It's very screechy. Yeah. And then there's a very subtle thing. Oh, I didn't get rid of it. You were hearing it the whole time. This thing, subtly, you were hearing in the back. It's a rhythmic part. Again, it's just trying to acknowledge the running is happening, but that's not really the focus. The focus is on the tension. The final thing we have here is something a bit more thematic. It is slightly thematic. It makes it feel like maybe this is in a longer film. Maybe there's some character development in there or something. It has more tonality. It's not kind of weird sounds. So... come together and kind of work together as a layer, just like the percussion did, where we kind of have this tonal layer. Yeah. So that's the whole kind of build of that stressful scene. Let's take a look. And then I turned everything off very intentionally right at the end here. I just turned the volume off on a lot of those. And then we get back to our basic subtle synth that we were opening up with. Down a little bit, but still hitting all that tension that you want in the low end. Yeah, so that's all there was to it. Not a ton of tracks, but all very processed. So a lot of recorded tracks, but again, very processed. So it's maybe not electronic music in the sense of a lot of synths. There are low-end synths, but a lot of recorded tracks that are heavily processed, and then that way I could get a performance in and fit the screen really well, but it's still anxiety-based and not like a chase scene, I guess. Action scene, not like that. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed hearing all those different sounds that are going on. Maybe when you listen to the track now, you can hear with more detail what's going on and enjoy it more. And hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, take care.
The first thing I tackled was setting the scene. I wanted to start in a place that said introspective evening walk and had the potential to evolve into an unsettling aspect of the escape. I landed on the opening tone ringing out as one note throughout the escape sequence, representing the introspective mind turning into a single mission: run. When the music dies down at the first zoom out, around 20 seconds, I wanted to represent that moment when you're afraid but are telling yourself everything is fine. A lingering line of tension that can either subside or grow. This is helped by the underlying bass tone that dissipates and comes back in when the main character starts to run. On the build, I work to create a world where the viewer doesn't know whether the escapee is being chased, that there's something gaining behind him that maybe we can't see. All the blood pressure, the heart pumping, those last moments before safety that can be the scariest. When the door closes, he's probably safe, but the tension remains underneath, highlighted by the lingering bass tones. I originally toyed with leaving the stalker looking at the houses musicless, but it felt right to bring a lingering sense of unease to the ending. Although there's some uncertainty at the end, the fact that the stalker is scanning the houses made it feel like panic was warranted.
Hi there, Jacob. My name is Pocholo Giliar, and here is my submission for the Urban Legends Fear of the Unknown trial scene. Now, before I get into the details of the score of the film, let's watch the movie first, and then I'll get to breaking down the score into what I use for the instruments, the sounds that I use, what I use, why I use them, and how did I use them. So here is the movie. Let's watch this first. Great, so that's basically my approach to the scene. Now let me break the score down into a couple of ways because I came up with a theme. First of all, I have to explain about the theme of this scene. First of all, it has to be threatening. And for me, my approach to this would be something distorting. A synth sound would be great for this scene since it's a running scene, but it creates but a sound that creates something uncertain, distorted, and threatening. So if you like to take a listen at this, I came up with a theme with just two notes, simply just two notes, but with a distorting sound. So if I were to solo this part over here, the theme would be just two notes. Now, the whole point of this scene is there would be theme and variation. So one theme, but different variations. So I've broken the theme into three parts. The first one would appear here, and then the second part would appear on the ambient sound, which I'll let you listen a little later, and then a more intense theme that would come out right before he runs to the door. So this is how it sounds like once again for the first one. And then for the second time it appears, it's more ambient because for the approach of the camera, the camera angle that you shot, he's running away. He's running away from the camera. So it makes it sound like the he's taking the sound with him. So it's more of a reverb, more ambient, more airy. So this is how it sounds like. There we go. And then the second and the third time it appears more intense. And then let's play it over here, right before he runs to the door. Great. So the whole theme that appears three times, the theme and variation, is when he starts to run already. So I feel like that would be a great approach to this scene. Now, in terms of sustained paddle, second of all, I'd like to discuss about the sustained paddle that I made for this. Once again, very ambient, very airy, and quite scratchy on the high end, and it sounds just like this. And it goes along with the theme as well. So it starts off here. It starts when this guy who is chasing after you or after the runner. Great. So basically, it's just this sustained pedal all throughout. Notes doesn't really change except when the theme comes. The theme is the only two notes, but then my whole goal of this scene is to, if you want to create something uncertain, for a person to be trembling, one note would be fine, but compromise the sound, basically. So that's what I did for the sustained pedal. Creates a sense of, not knowing what is to come, uncertainty once again. The theme is all about being ambient, and it creates this tension and a sheer background noise to create the tension. Now, other than that, I've also layered this with some recordings of mine. Now, if you were to listen to this scene only, the running scene, it sounds just like this. You have the person breathing. So what I did, I want the music to combine itself, like become a hybrid with the sounds of the scene. So with the scene alone, without the music, it sounds just like this. Now you'll be able to hear the breathing over there, but my goal is to enhance that breathing. So what I did, I took the liberty to follow that breathing as well. So here on this recording, I did my own breathing, but I followed the rhythm here. Since there is not really a fixed rhythm, this is not really a fixed rhythm. Uh, I basically just followed it. So if you'll be able to listen here on my recordings, you have right before he runs, you'll be able to hear this inhale sound, something like that. And then you'll be able to hear me breathing, enhancing it, putting a little bit more room into it, making it more wet. And along with the breathing, I need some clicking sound. It's not really a click like this, but what I did is that I took this racket and I basically just start scratching them, and then it goes along with the breathing sound. So it's quite ridiculous, but then it's not an instrument, so I just thought of using it in a way, and it sounds just like this with the scene, without the music, but with my breathing. Okay, along with that, let's play it with the music. So there it is. Another thing I do want to point out is that since, well, this is my approach. Of course, this can be taken as a discussion with the director or you, and you. Uh, the reason why I didn't make it something like a tension kind of action music while he's running is because the threat seems to be only in his head. He seen someone from the alley, and then he runs for it. He knows that that person is following him, but he runs away. But I don't seem to see the other guy chasing after him. So for me, on my approach, the threat seems to be only in his head. So I didn't make like an action, Born Legacy Tom Cruise kind of Mission Impossible sound. But since it is something like horror, thrilling, the sound should be more psychological. The sound should be more in the mental state. So that's the reason why you have this airy, sheer tension kind of sound and more ambient as well. A little bit rhythmic as too. So that's the reason why I put this over here. There we go. Now you won't be able to hear it clearly along with the other uh instruments that is going on because everything is being layered. But then it creates this heartbeat, as to while the guy is running as well. So it's not really a Mission Impossible 007 kind of big music rhythm, but then it does create this subtle, this mental state of fear, of being threatened, just by seeing someone and then following, being followed by. And so that's my whole approach to this scene that you gave us. So I hope you enjoy watching this. Thank you so much for watching this, and see you around. Thank you.
For this test scene, I chose to prioritize atmosphere over melody to better serve the pacing and psychological intensity of the moment. Given the scene's length and gradual escalation, I built tension through the careful layering of synthesizers and low strings, allowing the soundscape to evolve and build naturally as the stakes increased. As the scene heightens, I introduce sharp string figures, initially subtle, then increasingly prominent, to create a stark contrast against the low register textures and intensify the sense of unease. Percussion was used sparingly and deliberately, functioning as a punctuation device to emphasize key visual and dramatic moments rather than as a constant rhythmic presence. In the final portion of the scene, I stripped the texture back to a single pulsing synth, designed to mirror the character's racing heartbeat and heighten the audience's sense of fear and anticipation. This pulse gradually dissipates as the character realizes he's not in danger, allowing the music to release the accumulated tension in accordance with the narrative resolution.
Hi, I'm AD Ross. This is a behind the scenes look at my creative process for scoring the test scene for Urban Legends. Let's go. So obviously it's an urban setting. I start off with a low note because the atmosphere is already dark, so we have a dark ambiance in the background. The scene cuts to a hooded figure rapidly approaching, creating a sense of threat. This is where I give it that theatrical boom sound, often used in trailers, along with the classic eerie saw sound. Now that we see he is following, we now have a pulse happening with an unsettling sound. They're walking in a pace that's like walking tempo, so it's about 105 BPM. And then as the scene changes, we have more mysterious dark tones. Unique sounds, lots of mysteriousness, unsettling tones. And then as we go into the running scene, we change tempo into about 130 BPM. This is more of a running tempo. And I give it that big drums, classical orchestral sound. I add what's called dissonant chords. It's kind of like what you would hear in movies like Final Destination or like classic slasher style films. But they're chords that are technically two notes close together that normally aren't played together. So it creates this dissonant, strange, weird sound that's often used in these types of films. And then it just builds up and builds up. Got the sense of urgency. Door closes right on tempo. This is something I like doing where I create kind of like a synchronistic type of moment happening where things line up with doors closing or scene changes. This kind of creates like a dance happening within the film and the score itself. After that, I felt it was important to hear the breathing of the character because he's still scared. At the same time, it shows that the guy is still a bad guy. You can hear that brass, dirty, scary sound happening in the background. And then it goes into this type of sweeping drone as it does an out of focus fade. There's a lot of subtleties in there. A lot of the nuance can be best heard with headphones. I did a lot of work with the mixing so that a lot of things weren't too loud. A lot of adjustments. Did some final mastering to where there was more crescendo towards the end. A lot of build up. Basically, for this demonstration, I added the classic slasher type orchestral music in the background, you know? Big drums, big strings. But we can also go the rock vibe if you want to show more culture or if you want to show more of, kids acting rowdy. It depends on the direction of the film itself. But we can add more like electric guitar. We can pull back on some of the orchestral stuff if you want. We can do a hybrid. If there's like any type of like tech or hacker vibes happening in the film, we can add more like techie type electronic instruments and stuff. So depending on what's in the script, I can add certain elements accordingly, you know, and we can take out whatever you need. So it's all up to the director. So let me know. I really enjoyed working on this, but I look forward to working on more. So thanks for your time and consideration.
Okay, so that's all 5 composers' takes on our test scene. Unfortunately, we're not gonna, tell you guys our decision yet. That'll be in a future video. But what I will say, and what you could get from this video, is that I will be giving all 5 composers contact information, both phone number and email address, so you can reach them directly. So if any of these 5 composers resonated with you, or you wanted to work with them based off of their take on our scene, then we will be providing all the information, and you could contact them directly and have them work on your very own projects. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a long time in the making, and yeah, that's everything. So without further ado, here's the contact information. See you later.